On a frozen highway just after dawn, four little girls moved slowly along the shoulder of the road, huddled together and trembling, each one holding on to the next as if that small chain were the only thing keeping them upright. The winter had settled in like a weight, pressing the color out of the world and leaving everything washed in pale gray. Along Northbridge Spur Highway, the shoulder was lined with dirty ridges of snow, plowed weeks ago, then forgotten. The sky hung low and dull, and the air carried that quiet early morning stillness where even sound seemed reluctant to travel. Traffic was light, most people were still inside their houses, hands wrapped around coffee mugs, engines warming in driveways, lives safely enclosed. But these four children were outside, exposed, walking with a purpose that seemed both desperate and determined. Their breath came out in small clouds that vanished almost instantly. Their coats were too thin for the temperature. Their shoes darkened by slush with every step. The smallest one dragged a gray stuffed rabbit by one ear, the toy bouncing dangerously close to the road each time a truck roared past. Wind kicked up spray of icy grit. The girls flinched but kept walking. Forward, always forward, as if stopping meant surrendering to something worse than the cold. Marcus Thorne drove alone. At 44, he was used to mornings that began before the rest of the world stirred. His dark SUV cut steadily through the cold, tires humming softly against the asphalt. The Bluetooth was off. No calls, no dashboard glowing with data. Just the road, the muted light, and the rare luxury of silence that felt more like emptiness than peace. He had left a hotel room an hour ago. The sheets still smelled like whiskey and regret. On the passenger seat lay divorce papers freshly signed, his second marriage, his second failure. The meeting with his lawyers had been brief and brutal. His soon-to-be ex-wife had taken half of everything without a fight because he had nothing left to fight with. Not anymore. Marcus lived a life of order. Meetings stacked precisely. Logistics charts that told him where everything belonged. Systems that ran because nothing was left to chance. He liked mornings like this because they reminded him that at least sometimes the world could feel controlled. But this morning, control felt like a lie he told himself to avoid looking at the wreckage behind him. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Probably his CFO calling about the Thompson Corporation contract. $12 million down the drain because Marcus had missed 3 client calls this month. The board was getting nervous. Investors were asking questions. But Marcus could not bring himself to care. Not today. Not when everything felt so goddamn hollow. Then something appeared ahead that did not fit. At first his mind rejected it outright. 4 small shapes, barely more than shadows against the snow, moving in a single line along the narrow shoulder of the highway. Too small, too slow. His eyes flicked to the road sign ahead, then back again. This was not a bus stop. There were no houses, no neighborhood roads branching off, just open highway, and industrial land stretching out in both directions. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. As he drew closer, the shapes sharpened into people. Children. 4 of them, all the same height, all wearing coats far too thin for the cold. Each carried something, a backpack, a small bag, a bundle clutched close to the chest. They walked carefully, eyes fixed on the white line at the edge of the road, as if following an invisible guide that only they could see. Marcus slowed without realizing it. The details came into focus one by one. One girl's sneakers were soaked through, darkened by slush. Another's sock slipped halfway down her heel with every step. Their coats did not match, different colors, different sizes, all worn at the seams. The smallest girl walked at the back, dragging that gray stuffed rabbit by one ear. A truck blasted past, horn blaring as it shifted lanes. The rush of air sent a spray of icy slush toward the children. They stumbled slightly but kept moving. The rabbit slipped from the smallest girl's hand. It landed inches from the white line. She cried out and lunged for it. Marcus hit the brakes. Hard. The SUV skidded slightly on the frozen asphalt before coming to a stop 50 feet ahead of the children. His heart hammered against his ribs. He looked in the rearview mirror. The smallest girl had retrieved her rabbit and was clutching it to her chest, eyes wide with fear. The other 3 had gathered around her, forming a protective circle. Marcus sat there, hands still gripping the wheel, breathing harder than he should be. He could keep driving. He could tell himself someone else would stop. Someone better equipped. Someone who was not a 44-year-old man with 2 failed marriages and a company circling the drain. Someone who had not spent the last 35 years trying to outrun the memory of a brother he could not save. But even as he thought it, he knew he would not drive away. Could not. Because the image of that rabbit bouncing so close to the road had triggered something deep and old and painful, a memory he kept buried beneath decades of success and distance. He was 9 years old again, standing on the side of a rural road with everything he owned stuffed into a black trash bag, waiting, watching cars pass, telling himself that someone would stop eventually. His little brother Daniel, 7 years old, stood beside him crying softly. Their mother had lost custody 3 days earlier. The social worker had promised they would stay together. That promise had lasted 72 hours. Marcus swallowed against the tightness in his throat. He turned on his hazard lights, the amber flash cutting through the gray morning. Then he opened the door. Cold air rushed in, biting at his face, cutting through the warmth of the car. The sound of the highway grew louder, harsher. He stepped out onto the shoulder, boots crunching softly against the frozen gravel. The girls noticed him. All 4 heads lifted at once. They stopped walking. For a brief moment, no one moved. 4 identical faces stared at him, wide-eyed, guarded, too old in the way they watched him. The smallest girl tightened her grip on the stuffed rabbit. The one in front straightened her shoulders as if preparing herself for something unpleasant but inevitable. Marcus raised his hands slightly, palms open, making himself look less like a threat. He took a step away from the SUV, careful not to crowd them. "Hey," he called out, keeping his voice low and steady despite the rush of traffic behind him. "Hey there." The wind carried his words toward them. They did not answer. They just watched. Standing there on the side of a nearly empty highway, Marcus realized how thin the line was between the world he knew and the one these girls were walking through. A line of asphalt, a few feet of snow, one decision to stop or not. The girl in front spoke first. Her voice came out stronger than he expected for someone so small. "We are fine, sir. We are just walking home." It was too quick, too smooth, a practiced answer. Marcus had learned long ago that pushing too hard too fast only made people shut down. Especially kids who had rehearsed their lies out of necessity. "Walking home," he repeated, glancing around. There was nothing out here that resembled a home. No houses, no side streets. Just a long gray ribbon of road, a distant cluster of low warehouses, and a weathered green sign half buried in snow. Pine Hollow exit. 6 miles. Marcus felt a quiet click in his chest. 6 miles might as well have been 60 for children this small. He looked back at the girls. All 4 were identical. Same pale hair, same sharp little noses reddened by the cold. But their expressions told different stories. The leader's eyes stayed locked on his, watchful. The second girl shifted her weight from foot to foot, lips moving as if she might speak. The third stared down at her shoes, studying the slush like it held answers. The smallest one flinched slightly at the word home, fingers twisting the ear of the stuffed rabbit until the fabric creased. "Which way is home?" Marcus asked gently. The second girl jumped in too fast. "Just over there," she said, pointing, then stopping mid-gesture. Her hand wavered, redirected, pointed somewhere else. She realized what she had done and yanked her arm back, cheeks flushing. "We walk this way all the time. It is not far. We are used to it." The leader shot her a look. Not angry, protective. Marcus felt it then, the tell. The slight hitch in their breathing, the way the smallest girl's shoulders crept up around her ears. This was not a story being told for the first time. It was a shield, a protective lie built out of fear and repetition. "Okay," Marcus said, keeping his tone neutral. "Do your parents know where you are?" The leader's jaw tightened. "We do not need a ride," she said before he could finish. "We are not supposed to bother anybody." Another truck blasted past, horn blaring. The rush of air sent more icy slush spraying toward them. Instinctively, Marcus stepped closer, angling his body between the girls and the road. The smallest one gasped softly, then pressed herself deeper into the group. Marcus' heart kicked harder. "I am not worried about bothering," he said. "I am worried about you freezing or getting hurt. It is not safe out here." For a moment, no one answered. The wind tugged at their coats. Somewhere down the highway, another engine growled closer. The girl who had not spoken yet, the quiet one, lifted her eyes briefly. There was something old in that glance, something tired. Then she looked away again. "We are fine," the leader repeated, but her voice was not as steady now. Marcus weighed his next words carefully. Too much pressure and they might run. too little and he would be leaving them exactly where he had found them. How about this, he said, lowering his voice as if offering a secret. You do not have to go anywhere with me. But my car is right there. We can step inside for a few minutes just to warm up. Doors stay unlocked. You can sit where you like. The second girl swallowed hard. Just for a minute? Just a minute, Marcus said. No one should be this cold. They looked at one another, a silent conversation passing between them. The smallest girl hugged her bunny tighter. The quiet one nodded almost imperceptibly. Finally, the leader sighed. The sound came out more like an adult than a child. Okay, she said. But just to warm up. Marcus did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply stepped back, opened the rear door of the SUV, and let warm air spill out into the cold. The girls climbed in, careful, hesitant, still ready to bolt. As the doors closed softly, sealing out the wind, Marcus felt an uneasy certainty settle deeper. This was not going to end with a few questions and a ride to nowhere. Something underneath their practiced answers was already unraveling, and he was not walking away. Warm air rushed into the SUV, fogging the windows almost instantly. The heater hummed low and steady. For a moment, none of them spoke. The girls stayed pressed together in the back seat. Coats still on, backpacks clutched tight on their laps, as if someone might try to take them away. Marcus started the engine and pulled carefully back onto the road, easing the car forward just enough to get them clear of the shoulder. He did not drive fast. He did not turn on the radio. He let the quiet do some of the work for him. After a few seconds, the smallest girl let out a shaky breath she had been holding too long. She leaned her head against the second girl's shoulder, still gripping the gray, stuffed rabbit. Its ear was now twisted and flattened from her hand. You are safe for a minute, Marcus said gently, eyes on the road. I promise. No one answered, but the tension in the back seat eased just a fraction. He reached into the center console and pulled out a sealed bottle of water, then another. He passed them back one at a time, careful not to make it feel like an interrogation. Drink if you want, he said. No rush. The second girl took one immediately, unscrewing the cap with trembling fingers. The quiet girl accepted hers with a nod. The smallest one hesitated, then took the last bottle, still watching Marcus through the rearview mirror like she was measuring him. The leader did not take one at all. She sat perfectly still, eyes fixed on the back of Marcus' head. So, Marcus said lightly, as if making conversation on any other morning, do you all go to the same school? The second girl answered without thinking. We used to. The word slipped out and landed hard. She froze, eyes widening. The leader turned sharply toward her, a look flashing across her face that was not anger but fear. The quiet girl's gaze dropped to her lap. The smallest one pulled the bunny closer, hiding her mouth against its head. Marcus did not react. He did not turn around. He did not ask the follow-up question pressing against his tongue. He simply nodded. Used to, he repeated. Okay. They drove on in silence for another minute. The heater clicked as it adjusted. The road stretched ahead, empty and gray. As Marcus reached down to adjust the temperature, one of the backpacks slipped off the seat and thudded softly onto the floor behind him. The sound made all four girls flinch at once. It is fine, Marcus said quickly. Just fell over. He glanced back to make sure nothing had spilled. A folded piece of paper had slid halfway out of the bag, its corner crumpled and worn thin from being handled too many times. Marcus hesitated. He had learned over years of negotiations and crisis meetings when not to look. This was not one of those times. He reached back, picked up the paper, and unfolded it slowly, careful not to make a show of it. The words hit him immediately. Notice of eviction, Ridgeview Housing Court, tenant Diana Foster. Address Unit 3D, Burfield Towers. His eyes scanned the rest without moving his head. Past due rent, utilities scheduled for shutoff, final notice. Then at the bottom, written in hurried pen, a line that made his throat tighten. Girls must vacate by Friday. Placement pending. Siblings may be separated. Marcus felt something inside him go very still. He did not turn around. He did not say anything. He folded the paper exactly the way it had been, smoothing the crease with his thumb, and slid it back into the backpack as if it had never left. The silence in the car deepened. Who is Diana? He asked at last, keeping his voice even. No one answered right away. The second girl stared out the window. The leader's jaw worked like she was grinding something down. The quiet girl glanced at the smallest one, then back at her hands. Finally, the quiet girl spoke. Her voice was so soft Marcus almost missed it. "Our aunt," she said. A pause. "For now." Marcus nodded once. "Okay," he said. "Just that. Okay." His mind, meanwhile, was racing. Eviction, court, placement, separation. Words he knew too well. He remembered stamped papers sliding across a desk. A woman with tired eyes saying this is the best option available. A hallway that smelled like old carpet and disinfectant. His brother Daniel being led away first because he cried less. Best available had never meant best. He glanced in the rearview mirror. 4 identical heads sat in a tight cluster now, like they were bracing for impact. The smallest girl's lower lip trembled. She pressed her face into the bunny's worn fur, whispering something Marcus could not hear. He made a decision. Not yet. Not here. Not on this road. "I know a warm place nearby," he said, keeping his tone calm, almost casual. "We will get some breakfast, then I will help you call your aunt. No tricks. Just let us get you off this road first." The leader looked up sharply. "You are not taking us to the police?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "Not unless someone is in danger. And right now the danger was you walking out here." She studied his face through the mirror, searching for cracks. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders loosen slightly. "Breakfast?" the second girl asked, tentative. "Pancakes," Marcus said, "and hot chocolate." The second girl's stomach growled loud enough for everyone to hear. She flushed red, then laughed weakly. The sound broke the tension just a little. Marcus turned the car toward the exit ramp ahead. The green sign for Maple Junction flashed past. Behind him, the smallest girl's lip still trembled. But this time it was not just fear. It was something closer to hope. And Marcus knew that once that entered the picture, walking away was no longer an option. He drove on, already aware that breakfast was only the beginning. That eviction notice did not just say move out, it said separate them. 4 little girls, 1 stuffed bunny, a single signature away from being torn apart. The Maple Junction diner sat just off the exit, its neon sign flickering weakly against the gray morning. It was not busy yet. Only a few trucks in the lot, engines ticking as they cooled. Marcus parked close to the door, the SUV crunching softly over gravel dusted with snow. Inside, warmth wrapped around them immediately. The smell of coffee, butter, and something sweet filled the air. The girls hesitated at the entrance, eyes darting, bodies instinctively pulling closer together. Marcus guided them gently to a corner booth, out of the main aisle, backs against the wall. "Sit wherever you like," he said. They slid in side by side, coats still on, knees touching. The smallest one tucked the bunny between herself and the second girl, as if making sure it did not get left behind. Marcus ordered pancakes and hot chocolate without asking. No menus, no questions, just certainty. "I'm going to make a quick call," he said, standing. "I will be right over there." The leader watched him carefully as he walked a few steps away, her eyes never leaving his back. Only when he turned his body slightly, still clearly within sight, did she relax enough to wrap her hands around the mug the waitress set down. Marcus pulled his phone from his pocket and turned his back just enough to give them privacy. On the backpacks resting beside the booth, he had noticed a faded logo stitched into the fabric. Maple Crest Elementary. He dialed the number listed beneath it. The phone rang 3 times. "Maple Crest Elementary," a woman answered, her voice tired but kind. "This is Mrs. Hensley." Marcus swallowed. "Hi, my name is Marcus Thorne. I am calling about a set of students, the foster girls." There was a pause, then a soft intake of breath. "The quadruplets," Mrs. Hensley said. "Isabella, Emma, Olivia, and Sophia." "Yes," Marcus replied quietly. "Oh, thank goodness," she said, relief bleeding into her words. "We have been worried sick." Marcus leaned against the counter, eyes flicking toward the booth. The girls sat perfectly still now, hands wrapped around mugs, steam rising in front of their faces. "They are bright kids," Mrs. Hensley continued, "always together, always watching out for one another. You never see one without the other 3. "What happened?" Marcus asked. Another pause. Longer this time. "They stopped coming," she said. "After their mother passed last spring, their Aunt Diana took them in. At first she was responsive, tried hard. Then things started falling through. Missed meetings, incomplete paperwork. We kept calling." "And the building?" Marcus asked. "Burfield Towers," Mrs. Hensley said quietly. "Most of it is empty now. Utilities issues, evictions. We heard rumors the girls might be moved into separate placements if nothing changed. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. Thank you, he said. I appreciate you telling me. Are they safe? She asked. He looked back at the booth. The second girl was blowing carefully across the surface of her drink. The smallest one had finally taken off her coat. Yes, Marcus said. They are. He hung up and immediately dialed the second number Mrs. Hensley had given him. Ridgeview Family Services answered on the fourth ring. Daniela Price, a woman said, voice brisk but strained. Marcus introduced himself. There was recognition in her tone when he mentioned the girls' names. They are good kids, Daniela said after a moment. Too good. They have been holding each other together while everything around them fell apart. She explained what the papers could not. Diana had been overwhelmed. Working nights, missing deadlines, drinking more than she admitted. 2 missed appointments had pushed the case toward court. There is a hearing coming up, Daniela said. If no suitable guardian steps forward, the judge may order immediate placement, whatever is available, even if that means separating them, Marcus said. Daniela exhaled slowly. Yes. Before ending the call, he asked Daniela for Diana's number. She read it out slowly and he typed it in, staring at the streaked front window while it rang. Voicemail. He tried again. The same hollow recording. The same worn-out voice asking to leave a message after the tone. When he returned to the booth, all 4 girls looked up at once. The leader's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. Marcus slid into the seat across from them. He did not rush. He did not soften it too much. I spoke to your school, he said evenly, and to Ms. Price. 4 sets of eyes widened. You do not have to pretend anymore, he said. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The diner noise seemed to fade around them. Then the second girl whispered, Are we in trouble? No, Marcus said. You were trying to survive. The quiet girl's fingers tightened around her mug. The smallest one's bunny slipped slightly, and she grabbed it again fast. The leader stared at him, searching his face the way only children who have learned not to trust easily do. What happens now? She asked. Marcus did not answer right away because he knew now this was not about one morning or one meal. This was about 4 little girls who had walked onto a highway because the world behind them was closing in. And whatever came next, he was not going to let it happen quietly. He held their gaze. That, he said gently, depends on what we decide to do together. The girls sat frozen, spoons hovering, breath caught, waiting to see which kind of adult he would be. And the answer, though not yet spoken, had already begun to form. At first, the diner felt almost safe. The booth was warm. Steam curled up from the mugs of hot chocolate, fogging the air just above the table. The pancakes arrived stacked high, butter already melting into the surface. For a brief, fragile moment, the 4 girls looked like any other children eating breakfast on a cold morning. But safety, Marcus knew, was often an illusion. People noticed them, not all at once, not openly at first, just glances, double takes. Eyes that lingered a second too long on muddy shoes, on coats that did not quite fit, on 4 identical faces sitting too quietly, too tensely. At the next table, a middle-aged woman leaned toward her friend, lowering her voice, but not enough. Another bunch with no one watching them, she murmured. Better keep an eye on your purse. Her friend nodded, lips pursed. Where are their parents? Probably waiting for someone else to pay the bill. The words slid across the space like ice. The leader's shoulders stiffened. Her hand tightened around her fork. The smallest one slowly raised her stuffed bunny, using it to hide half her face. The second girl stared down at her plate, blinking fast. The quiet one did not move at all. Marcus was standing a few steps away, pretending to scroll through his phone. He heard every word. When he turned his back to make another call, the tension at the table shifted immediately. A young waitress approached, her smile polite but strained. Are you girls here with that man? She asked, eyes flicking toward Marcus, then back to the children. The second girl hesitated. He is just helping us. The woman from the next table leaned over, not bothering to hide her disdain. Helping? She scoffed. Do not tell me they are pulling that poor kid act. I read about scams like that all the time. Chairs creaked as people turned. Conversations quieted. The diner's attention narrowed onto the booth like a spotlight. The leader swallowed hard. We are not doing anything wrong, she said, her voice small but controlled. We will not cause trouble, I promise. The manager appeared then. Mr. Doyle had a towel slung over his shoulder, and the look of someone who believed he was being reasonable. His eyes swept over the girls. worn dresses, scuffed shoes, thin backpacks. Girls, he said, arms crossing. Is that man your family? The leader shook her head. Well, if he is not, I cannot have you sitting here alone. This is not a daycare. I can wash dishes, the leader blurted. I will clean tables, I swear. A laugh burst from another table. Did you hear that? A man said loudly. Sounds like a movie, all an act. The laughter burned. The smallest one whispered into her bunny's fur, so softly no one but the second girl heard it. We are not bad, no one answered her. A well-dressed customer near the counter stood up slightly, gesturing toward the booth. If no one is responsible for them, call social services, he said. Letting kids like that wander around just turns into trouble. Trouble. The word shattered what little composure the girls had left. The quiet girl's eyes filled. Her face twisted as she tried to hold it in. The second girl's chin trembled. Then her breath hitched. We did not steal anything, the second girl cried suddenly. We just wanted one meal. Just one. Like normal people. Her voice broke. The quiet girl covered her face, shoulders shaking. The smallest one curled into the corner of the booth, trying to fold herself smaller, as if she could disappear entirely. The leader stared at the table, cheeks burning, tears spilling silently onto the wood. The diner fell quiet. Then someone muttered, annoyed, Great, now they are crying. Who is cleaning this up? That was when Marcus came back. He stopped just inside the aisle, taking in the scene in a single glance. 4 children breaking down, a manager standing over them, adults watching like spectators. Mr. Doyle turned to him, relief and authority mixing in his tone. If they are not your family, sir, you will need to take them somewhere else. We cannot keep homeless kids here. You understand the legal side. You look like a man with money. Another customer chimed in, shaking his head. If it were me, I would stay out of it. Helping the wrong people gets you in the news these days. The room waited. This was the moment people expected Marcus to step back, to say they are not mine, to walk away clean. Instead, he moved forward. He rested one hand on the edge of the booth and spoke calmly, but loud enough for every table to hear. Someone here just called these girls trouble, did they not? No one answered. Marcus reached into his wallet and placed a card on the table. The logo was unmistakable, clean, corporate, powerful. Write this down clearly, he said. These girls are with me. I am responsible. And if you are going to throw someone out of this diner, start with me. The air shifted. Mr. Doyle's face drained of color. I was just protecting the restaurant, Mr. Thorne. Protecting a restaurant, Marcus replied evenly, does not mean turning it into a place where 4 7-year-olds cry because adults call them garbage. A few people looked down. One older woman near the window covered her mouth. You want to call the police? Marcus continued. Go ahead. I will explain that I found 4 children walking along a highway on a winter morning, and this diner was about to send them back into the cold. Silence. Marcus knelt in front of the booth, bringing himself level with the girls. You did not do anything wrong, he said gently. Not by being hungry, not by sitting down. The adults failed here, not you. He stood. We are leaving. This place does not deserve you. He placed cash on the table. More than enough. The food is good, he added. The way you treat people needs work. One by one, he took the girls' hands and led them out. The leader's fingers trembled in his grip, but her chin lifted as they passed the stunned faces. Outside, the cold hit again. As Marcus opened the car door, the smallest one tugged softly at his sleeve. Are they going to send someone to take us away now? Marcus looked out toward the highway, jaw tight, eyes distant with memory. If anyone tries to take you, he said slowly, this time they will have to go through me first. The door closed, and the promise hung in the air. Heavy, dangerous, and very real. The drive back into Northbridge Point was quiet. Too quiet for a car carrying 4 7-year-olds. No chatter. No shifting. No questions. They sat as if afraid any sound might undo the small safety Marcus had fought for back in the diner. Outside, the sky had darkened into a dull steel gray, the kind that warned of more snow later. Inside the SUV, the heater filled the cabin with warmth, but their silence held a cold of its own. Marcus did not push them to talk. Not yet. He turned into a gated community, the metal fence sliding open after recognizing his license plate. The girls' heads lifted at once. 4 pairs of eyes sweeping across the clean sidewalks, bright holiday wreaths still hanging on doors, and snow shoveled neatly into low, perfect piles. It was the kind of place where trouble was not supposed to cross the gate, where children were not supposed to walk along highways, where hunger was not supposed to exist. As he parked in front of his townhouse, a modern brick and glass place larger than one man needed, the girls stared up at it with an expression he recognized, not admiration. Caution. Homes this nice had rules. Homes this nice usually meant adults who did not want kids making a mess. Come on, Marcus said softly. You are safe here. He opened the door and stepped back so they would not feel trapped. One by one they slipped out, the leader clutching the bunny so tightly its stitching strained. Inside, the house met them with deep quiet. Not silent in a peaceful way, silent in a lonely way. Everything looked untouched. The couch cushions perfectly arranged, the bookshelf immaculate, the kitchen spotless like it had been cleaned long before dawn. There were traces of a life paused mid-breath. A framed photo turned face down on a side table. A closed door at the end of the hall that Marcus did not look at as he passed. A faint hint of lavender from a room no one slept in anymore. Is this your house? The quiet girl whispered. For now, he said. Come on, let us get you warm. He led them to the guest room. It was not designed for kids, but Marcus moved quickly. Opening closets, pulling out extra blankets, stacking pillows into 4 makeshift beds close together so their hands could touch from one mattress to the next. He brought out soft pajamas, still folded from when his sister visited years ago. Some were too big, some too small. But the girls held them with grateful, tentative fingers. Bathroom is there, he said. Towels are warm in the dryer. Take your time. They nodded timidly, clutching the pajamas to their chests as they shuffled toward the bathroom together, moving as a single unit, 4 small shadows, afraid to be separated even for a moment. When the door closed, Marcus exhaled for the first time since the diner. He leaned against the counter in the kitchen, bracing himself with both hands. He could still hear the smallest one crying softly into her bunny, could still see the second girl's face crumpling under the weight of strangers' judgment, could still feel the anger twisting in his chest at every adult who had looked away before him. He turned on the stove and warmed milk in a pot, stirring cocoa slowly. The sweet smell filled the kitchen, softening the edges of the house's emptiness. By the time the girls returned, hair damp, cheeks pink, wearing pajamas that hung loosely on their small shoulders, 4 mugs of cocoa were waiting on the table. They approached like animals stepping into a clearing, careful, quiet, uncertain whether the peace was real. It is okay, Marcus said. Sit. They climbed onto the chairs, pulling their knees up instinctively as if ready to run. The smallest one set the bunny in her lap and kept one hand on its head. The leader smoothed the sleeve of her too big pajama top. The second girl wrapped both hands around her mug even before drinking. The quiet girl stared at the swirl of cocoa as if afraid to disturb it. Marcus sat across from them, lowering himself until he was level with their eyes. You do not have to convince me you are okay anymore, he said gently. Just tell me what you are trying so hard to protect. The words hung there. At first no one moved. Then the second girl sniffed. The leader looked at her sisters. The quiet girl's chin trembled. The smallest one pressed her face into the bunny, shoulders shaking in small, controlled tremors. The dam broke, but not with noise. With quiet, halting sentences that overlapped, corrected each other, and finally merged into one truth they had carried too long. Our mom died in the spring, the leader said, voice flat with practiced numbness. She got sick. Then she did not come home. And Aunt Diana said we could live with her, the quiet girl whispered. She promised we would not get split up. She tried, the second girl added quickly. Like she needed Marcus to know that part. She really did. But she worked nights. She was tired all the time. And then the rent, the bills, everything got scary. The smallest one wiped her nose with her sleeve. She cried a lot, she said. Sometimes she forgot to eat. The girls looked at one another, silent in that way children are when sharing a secret they have protected for too long. When the letters came, the leader continued, the ones about rent and the court. She stopped opening the door. She thought if she did not answer, they could not take us. Miss Price told her about placements, the second girl said, that we might have to go to different homes. The quiet girl's voice cracked. They said they would try to keep us together. But they could not promise. The smallest one hugged her bunny tighter, whispering, They cannot make us walk into different houses if we just keep walking together, right? That line hit Marcus harder than he expected. He closed his eyes briefly, When he opened them, the girls watched him with an expression he recognized deep in his bones. The look of children waiting to see if their truth would be a burden or a responsibility. My brother and I, Marcus said quietly, sat in a hallway once while adults decided where we would go. They split us up. They said it was best available placement. The leader blinked. Did it get better? She asked. Marcus swallowed tightly. For me, eventually. For him? No, and I still think about that every day. The girls looked down at their mugs. So your choice, Marcus said softly, was to stay and be torn apart or walk until somebody finally listened. The leader nodded, eyes burning. We picked walking. Marcus leaned back slowly, the weight of their story settling over the table like a second winter. He did not tell them everything. Not yet. Not about the courtroom. Not about the system. Not about how fragile promises become when filtered through paperwork. What he did say was simple. And it was enough. You are here now, he said, and I am listening. 4 pairs of eyes lifted. For the first time, none of them looked away. Outside, snow began to fall again. Soft, steady, quiet. Inside, the house no longer felt empty. It felt like the beginning of something Marcus had not felt in a long, long time. A chance to make things right. The next morning arrived, wrapped in silence. Not the cold kind that haunted Marcus' house before, but a gentler hush, the kind that follows deep sleep and heavy truths finally spoken aloud. He stood in the hallway outside the guest room, listening. Soft breathing, the occasional sleepy shuffle of a blanket. Someone, probably the second girl, mumbling in a dream. For the first time since meeting them, they were not clinging to consciousness out of fear. They were resting. Marcus walked to the kitchen, poured a mug of coffee, and stared out the frosted window as the sun rose over Northbridge Point. The sky was a softer gray today, pale light brushing over the snow-dusted rooftops. He wrapped both hands around the mug and breathed in the steam. What now? That question had circled him all night. Through every tossed pillow, every memory that surfaced of a hallway, a clipboard, a social worker avoiding eye contact, as she said they will adapt. He had. His brother had not. And Marcus had never forgiven himself for walking into one home while his brother was driven to another. So he waited until the girls woke, until they had eaten toast and sliced apples, until they sat quietly on the living room rug, playing a silent game with an old deck of cards he dug out of a drawer. Then he knelt beside them and said, I want to tell you something. They looked up instantly. The leader straightened first. The second girl stopped shuffling. The quiet girl folded her hands in her lap. The smallest one hugged the bunny tighter, eyes wide. Marcus sat cross-legged on the floor across from them. Just a man, not a CEO, not a stranger anymore. When I was your age, he began, I had a brother named Daniel. We were close, really close. We had this rule. Where one of us went, the other followed, always. He smiled faintly, then let it fade. But when our parents lost custody, we got put into the system. And someone decided the best option was to split us. 2 foster homes. 2 counties, 2 different last names eventually. He paused. My brother never stopped trying to get back to me. But I stayed quiet. I tried to adapt, to survive. I stopped writing back when my letters started coming back unopened. A beat. I built my whole life thinking if I could just be successful enough, rich enough, no one would ever separate people like that again. He looked at the 4 girls, saw their faces shifting, softening, opening. I'm not helping you because I feel sorry for you, he continued, and I am not helping you because you asked. The leader tilted her head, watching him closely. I am helping because someone should have helped me, and they did not. The second girl's voice was small. But what if someone makes you stop or changes their mind, the quiet girl added. We are a lot. People say it all the time, the second girl whispered. Marcus nodded. That is fair. I have heard it too. But here's the thing. What you are is 4 human beings who have already survived more than most adults. And helping you is not a favor. He leaned forward. Once I stand up in front of that judge, once I say you are under my protection, that is not something I walk back. That is not kindness. It is responsibility. The leader's eyes filled, but she blinked fast, stubborn. What if our aunt wants us back? She asked, even though she did not go to the meetings. We will give her a chance, Marcus said, a real one. But only if she is stable. Only if she can show she is ready to care for all four of you safely. If not, he did not finish, because he did not need to. The girls looked at one another. We would rather sleep on the floor together than in four big beds far away, the second girl whispered. The quiet girl nodded fiercely. Together is the only thing that makes it home, the smallest one murmured. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen from his office. Sleek silver, the kind executives use to sign billion-dollar contracts. He placed it gently on the floor between them. I am not a judge, he said, but here is my offer. He looked at each of them in the eye. I will go to court. I will stand in front of every agency, every lawyer, and I will say these four girls stay together, and I will do what it takes to make sure you are safe. But I only do that if you want me to. He gestured toward the pen. If you agree, you do not need to sign anything. Just each of you touch the pen, one after the other. That is it. That is our deal. Silence fell. Then the smallest one reached out first. Her tiny fingers grazed the pen like it might disappear if she touched it too hard. The second girl followed, faster. Then the quiet girl, solemn. The leader hesitated, then placed her hand atop the others. Four small hands, one heavy promise. Marcus smiled softly, then gathered the pen and stood. I will call Miss Price. We will file for emergency kinship protection first. Then we will move fast. The second girl tugged his sleeve. Are we going to live here? For now, Marcus said, but let us take it one step at a time. Are we allowed to call it home? The smallest one asked, voice barely a whisper. Marcus knelt again, met her eyes, and said without hesitation, yes. The smallest one blinked slowly, then nodded. The girls huddled together again, this time not in fear, but in something closer to hope. As Marcus walked toward his study to make the first of 1,000 calls, he glanced back once. Four sisters sat curled together on the rug. Not clients, not charity cases, not a burden, a family. And this time, no matter what, he was not letting anyone tear it apart. It was almost exactly 8:30 in the morning when the doorbell rang. Marcus had been on hold with Ridgeview Family Services for 10 minutes, waiting to speak to Daniela Price. The girls were in the living room, the second one teaching the smallest how to play Go Fish with the worn deck of cards. The sound of the doorbell cut through the quiet like a blade. All four girls froze. The cards scattered on the floor. The leader stood up first, instinctively positioning herself in front of her sisters. Marcus walked to the door, heart beginning to pound. He checked the peephole. 2 police officers stood on his porch. One woman in her 40s with a no-nonsense expression, one younger man with his hand resting near his belt. Marcus took a slow breath and opened the door. Mr. Thorne? The woman said. Officer Karen Mills, this is Officer Ryan Torres. We received a call about 4 minor children at this address. Marcus kept his voice steady. Yes, I am caring for them temporarily. Are you a relative? Torres asked, his tone clipped. No, Marcus said. I found them walking on Northbridge Spur Highway yesterday morning in freezing conditions. I intervened. We need to see the children, Mills said, and we will need to contact Child Services. Marcus stepped aside. Of course, they are inside. The officers entered. The girls had moved closer together on the couch, the smallest one clutching her bunny, the leader sitting ramrod straight. Officer Mills knelt down in front of them, her expression softening slightly. Hi, girls, she said. I am Officer Mills. We are just here to make sure everyone is safe, okay? The leader nodded, her voice trembling. We are safe. He did not do anything bad. Torres pulled out a notepad. We received a call from Mrs. Helen Pritchard, your neighbor, 2 houses down. She reported seeing 4 young girls entering your home last night around 9 p.m. She was concerned. Marcus' jaw tightened. Concerned or nosy? Mills held up a hand. Mr. Thorne, I understand your frustration. But from an outside perspective, a single man bringing 4 children into his home raises questions, Torres added, especially when those children match the description of 4 missing minors from a welfare check report filed Thursday. Marcus felt his pulse spike. They were not missing. They were running. Mills pulled out her phone. I'm going to call the social worker assigned to this case. What was her name? Daniela Price, Marcus said, giving her the number. Mills dialed, putting it on speaker. Ridgeview Family Services, Daniela answered, her voice strained. Miss Price, this is Officer Karen Mills with Northbridge PD. I am at the residence of Marcus Thorne. He has 4 minors here: Isabella, Emma, Olivia, and Sophia Foster. There was a sharp intake of breath. They are with Marcus Thorne? Oh, thank God. I have been trying to find them since Diana called yesterday in hysterics saying they had run away. Can you confirm Mr. Thorne has permission to care for them? Mills asked. Not officially, Daniela said. We have not filed paperwork yet, but given the circumstances, I am requesting emergency temporary guardianship be expedited. These girls were in danger. Mr. Thorne likely saved their lives. Mills closed her phone. Mr. Thorne, Mrs. Price is coming by this afternoon with paperwork. Until then, these girls stay here, but understand you are under observation. Torres stepped forward, his voice colder. Any concerns from neighbors, teachers, anyone, we will be back. And next time, we might not leave them here. The officers left. The door closed behind them. For a moment, no one moved. Then the smallest one ran to Marcus and wrapped her arms around his legs. Are they taking us away? Marcus knelt down. No, sweetheart, not today. Not if I can help it. But in his head, he heard Torres' words. Rich guy playing hero. I have seen this before. Usually does not end well. The quiet girl was watching him closely. You are scared too, are not you? Marcus hesitated, then answered honestly. Yes, I am. But sometimes being scared means you are doing something that matters. That afternoon, Daniela Price arrived. She was a woman in her late 30s with sharp eyes and a briefcase that looked like it weighed more than the smallest girl. The children sat on the couch while Marcus and Daniela spoke in the kitchen. I will be direct, Daniela said. What you did was heroic and reckless. You could have been arrested for kidnapping. I found 4 children walking into traffic in sub-zero temperatures, Marcus said. What was I supposed to do? Call 911 immediately, Daniela replied. Not take them home. So they could be separated faster? Daniela sighed. Mr. Thorne. Marcus, I know you mean well. But the system does not run on good intentions. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick file. Diana Foster missed 2 mandatory appointments with Child Services. Eviction finalized. The apartment will be sealed Friday. Court hearing scheduled Monday, January 29th, 3 days from now. Marcus leaned forward. What happens at that hearing? If no suitable guardian steps forward, the girls go into emergency placement. Immediately. Together? Daniela avoided his eyes. We try, but 4 siblings, age 7, with trauma markers. Finding one home willing to take all 4 is rare. Then she pulled out another file. There is more. Diana called me yesterday after the girls ran. She was intoxicated. She admitted she cannot do this anymore. Daniela slid a paper across the table. She signed voluntary relinquishment papers this morning. Marcus stared at the document. She gave up custody, Daniela said. Not love. There is a difference. The state is now the legal guardian, which means Monday's hearing will decide. Do they go into the system or does someone step forward? I will step forward, Marcus said. Daniela looked at him carefully. Marcus, you are a single man, no wife, no family. You run a company. Judges are skeptical. Then I will make them believe. It is not about belief, it is about qualifications. Have you ever parented, taken a foster care class, undergone a background check? No, Marcus started. Daniela handed him a checklist. You have 48 hours to become a qualified guardian in the eyes of the court. Most people take months. Marcus looked at the list. Background check, home inspection, financial disclosure, reference letters, emergency foster license application. I will do it, he said. Daniela studied him. Why are you doing this? Really? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Because 35 years ago, 4 people, 2 social workers, a judge, and a foster coordinator, decided my brother and I should be separated, and he never recovered. You cannot save him by saving them, Daniela said gently. I know, Marcus replied, but I can make sure they do not end up like him. Daniela nodded slowly. Then get to work. You have 48 hours. After she left, Marcus looked at the clock. 2:47 p.m. 48 hours. He picked up his phone and started making calls. By 6 p.m., Marcus had completed the background check at the police station. Officer Mills had processed it herself, charging him extra for expedited service. By 7, he had secured 3 reference letters: Dr. Evelyn Park, his family physician, James O'Connor, his CFO and best friend for 15 years. Father Miguel Santos, the priest at the local church Marcus supported but rarely attended. At 8 p.m., a home inspector named Linda Cho arrived. She walked through every room with a clipboard, checking smoke detectors, outlet covers, cabinet locks. She paused in the guest room where the 4 makeshift beds were pushed together. "You will need separate beds for each child within 60 days," she said. "I will order them today," Marcus replied. Linda looked at him over her glasses. "You are certainly financially stable, Mr. Thorne, but money does not raise children." At 9 p.m., Marcus' phone rang. "James O'Connor. Marcus, we have a problem. Thompson Corporation is pulling out. They heard rumors you are distracted with personal issues. $12 million contract gone." "Let them go," Marcus said. "I am not backing down. The board is getting nervous. You are CEO, not a social worker." "Then maybe I need to be both," Marcus said and hung up. He sat in his office staring at the pile of paperwork. Financial disclosures, medical records, psychological evaluation requests. Every form felt like another test, another chance to fail. At 10 p.m., he walked to the living room. The girls were still awake, sitting together on the couch, whispering. "Tomorrow," Marcus said, "I'm going to court to ask a judge if you can stay with me, but I need to know if that is what you want." The leader looked at him. "What if the judge says no?" "Then I will appeal," Marcus said, "and keep appealing." The smallest one asked, "Will you give up if it is too hard?" Marcus looked at her directly. "Never." At 11 p.m., after the girls had finally fallen asleep, Marcus sat alone in his study. He opened an old box he kept locked in his desk drawer. Inside were letters from Daniel. He pulled out one dated 1998. "Marcus, they will not let me call you anymore. Foster mom says it makes me too sad. But I am not sad when I talk to you. I am sad when I cannot. Do you still remember me? Daniel." Marcus folded the letter carefully, hands shaking. He looked up at the ceiling. "I am sorry, Daniel," he whispered. "I am so sorry." Then he stood, walked to the doorway, and looked at the 4 girls sleeping in the next room. Their hands were touching, reaching across the narrow gaps between the mattresses. Even in sleep, they held on to each other. "Tomorrow," Marcus said to himself, "tomorrow I keep the promise I should have fought harder for." He turned off the light and closed the door softly. On the kitchen table, a stack of completed forms sat next to his car keys. The clock on the wall read 11:59 p.m., 47 hours and counting. The morning of the hearing arrived cold and clear. Marcus had not slept. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror at 5 a.m., adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. His hands were steady, but his reflection showed the truth. Dark circles under his eyes, a tightness around his mouth that no amount of coffee could soften. He looked like a man walking toward a verdict he could not control. Downstairs, the girls were already awake. They sat at the kitchen table in matching dresses Marcus had bought the day before. Simple, navy blue, respectable. The leader sat with her back perfectly straight, hands folded in her lap. The second girl fidgeted with her napkin, tearing small pieces and rolling them into balls. The quiet girl stared at her untouched toast. The smallest one held her bunny on her lap, whispering something into its worn ear. Marcus poured orange juice into 4 glasses and set them on the table. Nobody drank. "You do not have to be scared," he said, sitting down across from them. The leader looked at him. Her voice was small but direct. "Yes, we do." Marcus could not argue with that, so he did not try. "Diana will be there today," he said instead. "She is going to help us." The second girl looked up. "Is she mad at us? For running away?" "No," Marcus said. "She is not mad. She is scared. Just like you. Just like me." "What if the judge says we have to go with someone else?" the quiet girl asked. "Then we will fight that decision," Marcus said, "and we will keep fighting until we win." "But what if we do not win?" the smallest one whispered. Marcus reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "Then I will make sure you know every single day that I tried, that I did not give up, that you mattered." The girls looked at each other. Some silent agreement passed between them. The leader nodded once. "Okay." They finished breakfast in silence. At 8:15, they climbed into the SUV. Marcus checked the rearview mirror as he backed out of the driveway. 4 faces stared back at him. Pale, serious, too old for 7. The drive to Ridgeview Family Court took 20 minutes. The building was gray concrete with narrow windows. It looked exactly like what it was. a place where families were broken apart and occasionally, rarely, put back together. In the parking lot, Marcus turned off the engine but did not move. He gripped the steering wheel and took 3 slow breaths. The second girl leaned forward. "Are you okay?" Marcus looked at her in the mirror. "I will be, once we get through this." They walked across the parking lot together, Marcus in front, the 4 girls behind him in a line, each one holding the hand of the next, like a chain that refused to break. Inside, the hallway smelled like floor wax and old paper. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. People moved past them with briefcases and folders, their faces tired and resigned. Marcus checked in at the front desk. A woman with gray hair and bifocals handed him a numbered ticket. Courtroom C, 9 a.m. Judge Margaret Calloway presiding. Marcus nodded and led the girls to a bench near the courtroom doors. They sat close together, knees touching. The smallest one kept her bunny tucked under one arm. At 8:50, Daniela Price arrived. She wore a dark suit and carried a leather briefcase that looked like it had survived a war. She sat down next to Marcus and opened the briefcase on her lap. "I submitted all your paperwork last night," she said quietly. "Background check came back clean. Home inspection passed. Financial disclosures are solid. Reference letters are strong." Marcus exhaled slightly. "So we have a chance." Daniela closed the briefcase. "We have a case. Whether we have a chance depends on Judge Calloway. She is fair but strict. She has seen every trick, every excuse, every good intention that fell apart. What does she need to hear?" "The truth," Daniela said. "Do not try to be perfect. Do not promise what you cannot deliver. Just tell her why this matters." At 8:55, the courtroom doors opened. A bailiff stepped out and called their names. Foster sisters, Isabella, Emma, Olivia, and Sophia. Matter of temporary guardianship. Petitioner Marcus Thorne. Marcus stood. The girls stood with him. They walked into the courtroom together. The room was smaller than Marcus expected. Wood paneling on the walls, a flag in the corner, rows of empty benches. At the front, behind a raised desk, sat Judge Margaret Calloway. She was in her early 60s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up as they entered, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Thorne," she said, "please approach." Marcus walked to the table on the left. Daniela sat beside him. The girls sat in the front row behind them, still holding hands. On the other side of the room, a woman Marcus did not recognize sat at the opposing table. She was younger, maybe 35, with sharp features and a tailored blazer. She stood as the judge addressed her. "This is Rebecca Marsh," the judge said, "court-appointed attorney representing the interests of the minor children." Marcus glanced at Daniela. She leaned close and whispered, "Standard procedure. She is here to make sure whatever happens is actually in the girl's best interest." Judge Calloway opened a file on her desk. "This is an emergency hearing regarding temporary guardianship of Isabella, Emma, Olivia, and Sophia Foster. Mr. Thorne, you are petitioning for custody?" "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said, standing. The judge looked at him over her glasses. "You understand these children are not related to you by blood, marriage, or prior legal connection?" "I do." "Then explain why you believe you are qualified to care for them." Marcus took a breath. He had rehearsed this moment a dozen times, but now, standing in front of the judge with 4 little girls watching him, the words he had practiced felt hollow. "Your Honor," he began, "I'm not going to pretend I have all the qualifications on paper. I am not a trained foster parent. I have never raised children. I am a CEO who works long hours and has 2 failed marriages behind me." The judge raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "But 3 days ago," Marcus continued, "I found these 4 girls walking alone on a frozen highway. They were not running from abuse. They were not running from neglect. They were running from being separated." He paused. "I know what that feels like. Because 35 years ago, I was 9 years old, standing in a hallway with my 7-year-old brother, while adults decided where we would go. They split us up. 2 different homes, 2 different counties. They said it was the best option available." Marcus' voice cracked slightly. "My brother never recovered. He spent his whole life trying to get back to me. And when he could not, when the distance became too much, he gave up. He died by suicide when he was 19 years old." The courtroom was silent. Judge Calloway leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Thorne," she said gently, "I am sorry for your loss, but you cannot parent these children to fix your past." "I am not trying to fix my past," Marcus said. I am trying to stop 4 more children from having the same future my brother did. He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket pocket. This is a letter my brother wrote me in 1998. He was 14, I was 16. We had been separated for 7 years. He unfolded the letter with shaking hands and read aloud. Marcus, I do not blame you for not coming back. I know you tried. But every night I wonder what it would have been like if someone, anyone, had fought harder to keep us together. Maybe I would be different. Maybe I would not feel so broken. Marcus folded the letter carefully and looked at the judge. Your Honor, I cannot bring my brother back, but I can stand here and say these 4 girls deserve someone who will not quit when it gets hard, someone who understands what is at stake. Judge Calloway removed her glasses and set them on the desk. Mr. Thorne, the court appreciates your honesty, but emotional investment is not the same as capability. Ms. Marsh, do you have questions for the petitioner? Rebecca Marsh stood. Yes, Your Honor. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Thorne, you mentioned 2 failed marriages. Can you speak to why those relationships ended? Marcus' jaw tightened. The first ended because I was never home. I prioritized work over everything. The second ended for the same reason. And yet you are asking this court to believe you will suddenly be present for 4 children who require constant attention and care. I am asking this court to give me the chance to prove it, Marcus said. Marsh flipped through her notes. You stepped down as CEO of your company 2 days ago, correct? I stepped down as CEO, Marcus said. I remain chairman. I reduced my role so I could be available for these children. A significant financial change, Marsh said. Can you assure the court that this decision was not impulsive? That you will not regret it in 6 months and return to your previous schedule? I can assure the court, Marcus said evenly, that my previous schedule is exactly what destroyed my marriages and kept me from being there when my brother needed me. I will not make that mistake again. Marsh paused. Mr. Thorne, I have been contacted by your sister, Karen Thorne Williams. She expressed concern that you are experiencing a psychological episode related to unresolved trauma from your brother's death. What is your response? Marcus felt his pulse spike. I have not spoken to my sister in 10 years. She does not know me. She does not know what I am capable of. So you deny that you are having a psychological break? Marcus looked directly at Judge Calloway. Your Honor, maybe I am. Maybe realizing I cannot save my brother, but I can save 4 girls who remind me of him every single day. Maybe that is a break. But it is also the sanest thing I have ever done. Judge Calloway made a note on her pad. Ms. Marsh, anything else? One more question, Your Honor. Marsh turned back to Marcus. If the court grants temporary guardianship, what happens when these girls have nightmares, when they act out because of trauma, when they test boundaries because they have been abandoned by every adult in their lives? Marcus did not hesitate. Then I show up, every single time. I do not promise to be perfect. I promise to be there. Marsh sat down. Judge Calloway looked at Daniela. Ms. Price, do you have anything to add? Daniela stood. Your Honor, in 25 years of social work, I have never seen a turnaround like this. Mr. Thorne completed every requirement in 48 hours. Background check, home inspection, financial disclosure, reference letters. He did not just meet the standards, he exceeded them. She pulled out a folder. I have reports here from Dr. Evelyn Park, his family physician, stating that Mr. Thorne is in excellent mental and physical health. A letter from Father Miguel Santos, attesting to his character and community involvement. And a statement from James O'Connor, his business partner, confirming that Mr. Thorne has the financial stability and support system to care for these children long term. Judge Calloway took the folder and began reading. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of pages turning. After several minutes, the judge looked up. I would like to hear from the children. Marcus turned. The girls sat rigid in their seats, hands still linked. Isabella, the judge said gently, would you come forward, please? The leader stood slowly and walked to the witness chair beside the judge's bench. She climbed into the seat, her feet not quite reaching the floor. She folded her hands in her lap and looked directly at Judge Calloway. Isabella, the judge said, do you want to stay with Mr. Thorne? Yes, ma'am. Why? Isabella took a breath. Because when people saw us at the diner, they called us trouble. They said we were scammers. They made my sisters cry. She paused. And Mr. Thorne, he did not even know us, but He stood up and said we were not doing anything wrong, that the adults failed, not us. Isabella's voice shook. No one ever said that before. Everyone always made us feel like we were the problem. Do you believe he can care for all four of you? The judge asked. Isabella nodded. I think he is scared, but he is trying, and that is more than most grown-ups do. Judge Calloway made another note. Thank you, Isabella. Emma, would you come up, please? The second girl walked to the chair. She was smaller than her sister, and her legs swung nervously as she sat. Emma, the judge said, what do you think about staying with Mr. Thorne? He makes really good hot chocolate, Emma said. And he listens. Actually listens. Has he ever made you feel unsafe? No, ma'am. He lets us keep our door open at night, and he checks on us, but he does not come in unless we ask. Judge Calloway nodded. Olivia? The quiet girl approached slowly. She sat in the chair and looked down at her hands. Olivia, the judge said softly, you do not have to be afraid. Just tell me how you feel. Olivia was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. He cries sometimes, when he thinks we are asleep, but he stays. That is what matters. The judge leaned forward. What do you mean, he stays? Olivia looked up, her eyes fierce. Everyone leaves. Our dad left when we were babies. Our mom died. Aunt Diana tried, but she could not handle it. Everyone leaves. Her voice grew stronger. But Mr. Thorne does not leave. Even when it is hard. Even when we are scared, or sad, or mean. He stays. Judge Calloway's eyes softened. Thank you, Olivia. Sophia, will you come up? The smallest girl walked to the chair, clutching her bunny. She sat down and placed the bunny in her lap. Sophia, the judge said, that is a very special bunny. His name is Mr. Hops, Sophia said quietly. Has Mr. Hops been with you a long time? Since I was 3. Mama gave him to me. And what does Mr. Hops think about Mr. Thorne? Sophia looked at the bunny, then at Marcus. He thinks Mr. Thorne keeps his promises. What promises has he made you? That he will not leave, Sophia said, and he kept it. That is all I needed. Judge Calloway set down her pen. Thank you, girls. You may return to your seats. The 4 girls walked back and sat down together. The leader put her arm around the smallest one. The judge looked at her notes for a long time. Then she looked up. I have been on this bench for 23 years, she said. I have seen hundreds of cases, foster failures, adoption breakdowns, good intentions gone wrong. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Mr. Thorne, what you are asking for is highly irregular. Single male guardian, no experience. No training. Marcus' heart sank. But I have also seen the alternative, the judge continued. I have signed orders that separated siblings. I have watched good kids fall through cracks because no one wanted to take on too much. She looked at the girls. These 4 have already lost their mother. They have already been failed by systems meant to protect them. They have already run, literally, to stay together. Judge Calloway looked back at Marcus. I am granting temporary emergency guardianship for 90 days. In that time, you will complete foster parent training. You will undergo weekly home inspections. You will attend family counseling with the girls, and you will submit monthly reports to Ms. Price. Marcus could not breathe. If after 90 days you have demonstrated capacity, we will revisit this for long-term guardianship. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus managed. Judge Calloway picked up her gavel. Do not thank me yet, Mr. Thorne. This is a trial. Fail, and these girls go back into the system. Prove me right. She brought the gavel down. The sound echoed through the courtroom. Marcus turned. 4 girls were already running toward him. They crashed into him in a tangle of arms and tears. He knelt down and wrapped his arms around all of them, holding them as tightly as he dared. Does this mean forever? The smallest one asked. Marcus' voice was thick. It means we have a chance, sweetheart, and I am going to fight like hell to make it forever. The leader pulled back and looked at him. Can we call you Dad now? Marcus looked at each of them. Only if you want to. All 4 spoke at once. We want to. Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time in 35 years, he let himself believe he might actually get it right. Outside the courthouse, Diana was waiting. She stood by a bench wearing a clean coat and sober eyes. When the girls saw her, they ran. She knelt down and caught them, tears streaming down her face. I am so sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. Marcus walked over slowly. Diana looked up at him. Thank you, she said, for giving them what I could not. You gave them love, Marcus said. That is the foundation. I am just building on it. Can I? Diana hesitated. Can I still see them? Every week if you want, Marcus said. Diana broke down crying. I want to be part of their lives, even if it is just as their aunt. You are family, Marcus said. That does not change. They stood there for a moment, two broken adults who had both failed in different ways, but who were still standing, still trying. The girls pulled away from Diana and ran back to Marcus. He took their hands and led them to the SUV. As they drove away, the smallest one asked, Where are we going? Home, Marcus said. The leader leaned forward. Is it really home now? Marcus looked at her in the mirror. Yes, it really is. 1 year later, Marcus stood on the same stretch of highway where he had found them. Snow fell softly, covering the shoulder in fresh white. The girls stood beside him, now 8 years old, wearing winter coats that actually fit. Earlier that day, they had attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Stay Together initiative at Ridgeview Community Center. 47 sibling groups had been kept together in the first year. 47 families that did not have to walk a frozen highway hoping someone would stop. He pulled out 4 small boxes from his pocket. Inside each was a silver bracelet. Engraved on the inside were the words, We do not split, not for paperwork, not for anything. Foster Thorn family. One by one he clasped them onto their wrists. 1 year ago, he said, You were the bravest people I had ever met. You chose each other over safety. The leader looked at him. You chose us too, and I would choose you again, Marcus said. Every single time. Even when we are annoying? The smallest one asked. Marcus laughed, especially then. They stood together looking at the highway. The place that had been so terrifying was now just a road, covered in snow, quiet, empty. It is weird, the second girl said. This place was so scary. But it is also where we found you. Sometimes the scariest roads lead us home, Marcus said. The quiet girl looked up at him. Do you still think about your brother? Every day, Marcus said. But now when I think of him, I do not just feel sad. I feel grateful. Because he taught me what it costs to break a promise. The leader took his hand. And you kept yours. We kept ours, Marcus said. Together. They walked back to the SUV. As they drove away, Marcus looked in the rearview mirror one last time. 4 faces looked back at him. Smiling now. Safe. His. In the passenger seat, his phone buzzed. A text from Daniela Price. Adoption papers finalized. Judge signed this morning. They are officially yours. Congratulations, Dad. Marcus pulled over and read the message again. Then he turned to the back seat. I have some news, he said. 4 pairs of eyes looked at him. It is official. You are not foster kids anymore. You are mine. Forever. The car erupted in cheers. The girls lunged forward, hugging him from behind, their arms wrapping around his neck and shoulders. Forever, forever? The smallest one asked. Forever, forever, Marcus said. He started the car again and pulled back onto the road. In the distance, he could see his house. The lights were on, warm and welcoming. For the first time in 35 years, Marcus Thorn was going home. And this time, he was not alone. Text on screen. The Stay Together initiative has kept 47 sibling groups together in its first year and operates in 8 states. Marcus Thorn officially adopted Isabella, Emma, Olivia, and Sophia Foster in June 2024. Diana Foster celebrated 2 years of sobriety in 2026 and remains an active part of the girls' lives. This story is dedicated to every child who walked a cold road hoping someone would stop, and to every person who did. The end.